Okay, let the record show that the SISM committee adjourned in closed session. There was no action to take as a result of that discussion. Finance will continue with their specific items. Let me bring that agenda back up here. We have 8 items of our own to finish here. The first item on our agenda is the minutes of our previous meeting from January 9th, 2024. Copies of the minutes were in the packets. Any revisions or adjustments to the minutes that anyone noted they needed to see? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes. Motion by Watson, is there a second? Second by Lukens. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries. Item number 2, discussion and possible action on sole source purchasing of physical therapy services for the police department. And you've got some documentation in your packet. They're looking to continue the arrangement that they have with their current therapist, whom they're sharing, I believe, with the fire department. It looks like we started this with one department and then opened it up to them both. And it's been working very well. They had a prior provider that they were not happy with, and then I believe we went to this one with the last iteration of the services. Does anyone have any questions on this? If not, is there a motion to approve that sole source? Motion by Lukens, second by Dinny. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries. Item number 3 is discussion and possible action on sole source purchasing of River Life concession fencing. And you'll see from the write-up in the packets on that one, they need some fencing around the HVAC units at that building that they lease out to the concession operator. Any questions on the documentation there? We had some documents in there from the Parks Director about what that fencing would look like and the costs. Is there a motion to approve that item? Motion by Watson, second by Martins. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries. Item number 4 is discussion and possible action on sole source purchasing of 400 block stage repair and sealant. Documentation in the packets on that also. They periodically apply a sealant to those concrete surfaces on the block. They've got a price quote in there for that. Does anyone have questions for Jamie on that as well? That's maintenance item. Is there a motion to approve that acquisition? Motion by Martins, is there a second? Second by Lukens. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries. Item 5 is discussion and possible action on approving urban non-point source and stormwater management planning grant agreement. And so we've got the write-up in the packets on that. The SISM committee has already requested and recommended approval of this grant acceptance. This one would be for some multifaceted planning regarding stormwater management and our compliance with our discharge permits. Any questions on that at all? If not, is there a motion to approve the acceptance of the grant? Motion by Lukens, second by Watson. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries. Then we've got item 6 is discussion and possible action on approving the termination of animal control services to the Everest Metro Police Department provided pursuant to an intergovernmental humane officer service agreement. And you'll recall since we began to have an animal control program and an animal control officer, we have shared those services, the services of that employee with Everest Metro and with Weston, so in the communities that they serve. And so every year we had renewed that. Well, now those police departments are merging. A couple of the suburban departments are merging together. And given the uncertainty with the completion of that, they have requested to pull out of that agreement. So you'll see the revenue loss that's listed there. It looks like it's just over $15,000 for the year. Obviously, we still retain the employee. I believe we are still, because animal control is an enterprise fund, we are still earmarking our fees and fines towards that salary, correct, Marianne?
Yes, but it's no longer enterprise fund.
It's
You
not.
guys changed it
So we
to
moved it
special
into
revenue
a
fund.
caveat. Okay, so, yes, so but we do have, that revenue source. I think, though, that, well, and I guess let's call up the police chief to talk a little bit about animal control. This may be an opportune time for us to take a look at what we do in animal control and the way we provide that service to our own community as well. I guess, would it be possible, Chief Barnes, for you to, rather than us to just find a way to supplement the budget, would there be a way for you to take a holistic look at the animal control operation? Because I know that our humane officer also has had the assistance of some of the CSO crew as well in the past. Is it possible to take a look at that and see if there's a way that we could streamline or be more cost-effective with what we do?
Yeah, even prior to receiving notice from the Everest Metro Police Department, I asked our staff as a project this year to evaluate all of our programs, animal control being one of them, to determine, is there a better way to deliver animal control services to this community that allow us to be consistent with that enforcement? And one of the challenges is when a program is built around one employee, for the most part, when that employee is unavailable, you don't have those services. So we have looked at other communities and looked at how they do code enforcement, which animal control for the most part is, and how to get the most for the community out of the dollars that are spent. So my expectation is we'll be coming forward with data about our animal control program and how we've been effective and where we have fallen short, and to be able to bring recommendations or several different options forward to be like, here might be another way to provide these services. And I feel confident that we might be able to do that more efficiently and effectively, where we wouldn't be asking for that $15,000 to come back into our budget. And my expectation is we'll be able to do that within the next month or two to come back to the Finance Committee, which is at least where we always brought animal control issues.
Right.
When it was first designed, it was within the Finance Committee. So to come forward to the Finance Committee and say, here's our proposal and what that looks like, and maybe public health and safety.
Yeah. It started in public health and safety because originally we had terrible compliance with licensing. And we found out a number of years ago, about 2012 or 13, that about 10% of the animals that existed here were actually accounted for through a license and vaccine verification. So we kind of took off from there, but it has landed in the finance realm once we created the department, because it was not only a revenue source, but a cost, and the licensing compliance also is a revenue source. So if that revenue isn't coming in, then of course that's also our problem. So it makes sense if you'd like to make that report here and in PH&S, whichever.
Yeah, and I think maybe we can just provide it to both, especially as we start to have conversations about what that might look like, whether it's multiple employees, they might be CSOs, they could be different part-time positions, to make sure we have overlap when someone's missing. It's very difficult when we don't have anyone providing that service for a period of time.
Right. At the very least, I think that whether we make any structural change or not, we do need to have some cross-trained backup, so that first, to find a way to operate without the lost revenue, but second, then also to make sure that when our one person isn't here, that, there's someone that's responding to at least those priority complaints, which I think they are now, but I think you said sometimes when that gap exists, that either officers or CSOs have been filling in already, right? So.
Yeah, being transparent, this wasn't their motivation or their reason behind it, but we haven't provided any animal control to Everest Metro since October, because we didn't have the capacity to do that. And those type of arrangements, we're not going to send a Wausau police officer into another jurisdiction to do ordinance enforcement.
Right.
So that's just
Not if Humane Officer Bishop isn't available.
Right. So that's just a quick example of how that program isn't meeting my expectations, and my guess is your expectations at the same time.
Sure. Okay, so I think we still should vote on accepting the termination, because that terminates the agreement and lets them out of it at Everest Metro. And then maybe we'll place a future item on our next agenda for a report from Chief Barnes about streamlining services. So whether that's our next meeting or our first meeting of March, we're fine with whenever you're ready.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. So do we have a motion to accept the Everest Metro exit from the agreement? Motion by Martins. Is there a second? Second by Denny. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries as well. Item number 7 is discussion and possible action on approving wireless telecommunications equipment and service agreement with New Cell LLC, doing business as Cellcom. This is a renewal of the city's cell phone contract. It looks like it's been reviewed by the attorney's office and is recommended for renewal. Any questions on this agreement? If not, is there a motion to approve it? A motion by Lukens. Is there a second? Second by Martins. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries. Our last item, item 8, is discussion and possible action regarding a budget modification for Short Street construction. And it appears, based on what we have in the packets, that the project on Short Street is, at least in terms of bid, coming in considerably over where we had landed for the budget. Yeah, does anyone have questions on this at all? It looks like we would be able to, with revenue on hand, accept the additional cost because the project is funded from tax increment district that is able to pay that extra. Does anyone have questions on that at all? Go ahead, Doug.
So this is just that one piece of short from third to second? It's a very short block?
It's literally a short street, yes.
Wow.
Short, bad pun, but yes. Yes.
It definitely needs it, but that's,
It's rough on the cost side, though. So.
yes.
And so with that, do we have a motion to accept that budget modification? That would allow the project to move forward? If not, we would have to wait on the project, and they'd have to go back and rebid it, I imagine.
If you look at the bids, it seems like the bids were reasonable compared to the other 2 bids that came in.
Yes.
I mean, there's.
They were all 600, right?
Well, I don't
So-
exactly remember if they were all 600, but there's like, 20,000 maybe between the
Between 'em.
low and the next.
Right.
And then the third one is considerably higher.
Right. So and time may not fix that cost anyway by waiting, it sounds like.
And the district is paying for the streets, the water, and the sewer. So it's paying for the entire cost for the district, or for that
Because
street.
it's in the district.
Yeah, so the
Yes.
utility is not having to, support
That
those
would
costs.
remove the burden of the excess from the utility too, then. Okay.
So
Go ahead.
what was the total amount then that we were over or underestimated?
Was it 237 or something? I gotta look, I gotta find, I have to toggle, but there's no easy way to toggle between the packet and the
I
agenda.
apologize, I wasn't fast on the gun.
271
And change.
and change, okay.
Up from 400.
Okay. So yes, that would supplement the funds that we have budgeted already in the 2024 budget if we make the modification.
I would move to get the street fixed.
Okay, so we'll take a motion from Denny to approve the budget mod. Is there a second? Second from Watson. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries. That is our last item, so I'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion from Watson. Is there a second? Second from Martins. Members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We'll stand adjourned. Common Council will start in this chamber then at 6. Actually, do we have a committee of the whole at 6:30 and then council at 7:30? Oh, just the council at 6:30. Okay. All right. I don't have the city calendar up on here because, certain apps don't work anymore in here, so. Okay. All right. So we'll stand adjourned then until 6:30. Thank you, everyone.